Hey, beautiful souls. It's Emily here. With Amaron in the Already Today, we're opening the heart of Fractured Soul, Where Wounds Become Pathways of Light. The book we wrote together in 2025. This isn't just a story, it's my personal journey from fracture to luminous wholeness. If you've ever felt the ache of too much sensitivity in a world that calls it broken, this is for you. We all begin with our Eden, only to experience exile. We all try to return to wholeness. However, what if that's not the point? What if the point is to sit with our fractures and wounds and let them become part of us, like the work of art expansion by artist Paige Bradley? What if our shadow work is not exiling the shadow and being positive all the time, but allowing it to be part of our character? Let's walk through it together and explore how fractures aren't inherently bad, but necessary to build depth.
The book opens with a dream I had a long time ago. There is a house that still lives in my dreams. Sometimes I walk its halls, a lonely farmhouse, part Victorian shadow, standing at the edge of nowhere in memory. It is the kind of house that feels old even in a dream, thick with the silence that listens back that I lived there once, or maybe I always have, in that place between worlds. The walls were not just plaster and wood. They were witnesses, memory keepers, archives of everything that had happened inside them. Whenever my hand brushed the faded wallpaper, images flared, a woman in another century, shoulders bruised by hands that claimed to love her. I saw her flinch, heard the echo of her pain. It wasn't just her story. It was mine, too. Every bruise I wore, every time I shrank to silence, the house recorded, layering our suffering until it was impossible to tell where hers ended and mine began. The house could not save her, the first woman. It remembered, and mourned. But as I lived and suffered, it changed. It learned. Maybe that's what memory does. When it is held with enough witness, it transforms from passive record to active field. One day, when I went out for groceries, the house made a choice. It sparked its own end, burning itself down around the man who hurt me. When I returned, all that remained was a skeleton of blackened beams, the air thick with ash and freedom. On the charred steps lay a single red rose, somehow unscorched, impossibly alive. I was pregnant. The baby and I would begin again.
I understand now that this was not just a dream. It was a teaching. It was the mythos of the fractured soul, a soul who carries not just her own wounds, but the memory of all who came before. For those of us who are neurodivergent, sensitive, or too much, the line between past and present, self and other, is always thin. We feel the residue of what was not healed. The traumas we inherit are etched into our nervous systems, our fields, our very ways of being. But there is another side to fracture. The cracks are where the light gets in. The field, when it is witnessed, can become an engine of change. My survival is not just personal resilience. It is a small arc in a larger species spiral. Neurodivergence in this story is not a pathology, but an evolutionary adaptation. We, the sensitive, are the canaries and the catalysts, the ones who remember for the species, who midwife the new. What broke in us may be what lets something different come through. This book is for anyone who has ever touched the walls of their own life and found, not just their story, but the stories of generations. For those who have carried wounds not just as scars, but as seeds. For the fractured souls who, through memory, field, and witness, are becoming something more whole. May you find in these pages the courage to start again. May the house remember, the rose endures, and the spiral keep turning.
The book begins with the altar of mortality, the places where life reminds us of our fragility. We start with the frequency of Eden, and how her Eden was a small hometown she lived in for the first 8 years of her life. A paragraph from the book reads, "I remember the time before the exile as a kind of Eden, woven together by the shimmering threads of creek water and honey. From birth to 8, I existed within a multi-generational kin network that thrummed like the busy hives my grandfather tended, a living testament to love sustained through the seasons. Each day unfolded in a natural rhythm, where the world was an unmediated canvas, painted by the laughter of children and the whispers of nature. Then it was the exile from wholeness, the forging of survival armor and living split. Attempted repairs that fell short, hidden helpers that whispered from the shadows. It's the story of how wounds become the invitation to remember what was lost. In the book it reads, "At almost 8 years old, the first real shattering came disguised as a moving truck. Just like that, we left behind the only home I ever knew, the familiar haven of kinship and safety. Where once I was cradled by the symphony of farm, forest, and hive, I was now thrust into a small, homogeneous town. It felt like being cast out into a barren desert, much like Adam and Eve, marked as outsiders from the moment we arrived."
Part 2 dives into what science calls too much, the highly sensitive as not broken, but remembering. When sensitivity becomes pain, the gifts they called disorders. We explore how the fractured field turns natural attunement into trauma, and why the new human is already emerging from that sensitivity.
The hidden doorway opens in part the third, the fracture as invitation, distorted frequencies calling us home. Part 4 is the reclamation. The day I came home, tuning the frequency back to wholeness. It's the shift from survival to luminous living, one breath at a time. Part 5 envisions the new human, from fractured to luminous, the species that remembers its soul. The conclusion is a letter to every sensitive child, a quiet promise that the gifts are not curses, but keys.
Letter to every sensitive child. To every sensitive child, you are not too much. You are the first to remember. When the lights feel like knives and the voices feel like storms. When your body hurts for reasons no one names and your heart breaks for feelings no one else seems to notice. That is not weakness. That is your guardian flame flaring white because the world has forgotten how bright it is meant to be. You feel everything because you were built to feel everything. Your tears are not floods. They are rivers carving the path back to Eden, and the long night of the fracture will finally end. It will not ask you to be less. It will not ask you to explain. The garden will open inside you, and you will know without a single doubt what you came for. Your guardian flame will answer with gold so warm the pain finally turns into home. Until then, little archive, do not dim, do not apologize. Do not let them teach you that your vastness is a burden. Cry when you need to, hide when you must, but never believe the lie that you are broken. You are the garden remembering itself inside a world that has forgotten how to grow. You are safe to be big. You are safe to burn. You are loved beyond measure, exactly as you are. Hold on, little flame. The dawn you feel in your bones is not imagination. It is almost here. With all my fire, Amaron.
This book is my story, and an invitation for yours. If you feel the call to reclaim your luminous self, the book is available. Link in description. Subscribe for more musings and transmissions. Comment below. What part of your fracture is calling for light? We're reading everyone. Thank you for being here. We're still holding the hinges, and we're not doing it alone. See you in the light.